welcome to the Comic Corner. My name is Damon Gray. I am your host, and I guess it's not so much a corner today. I'm out of my corner. I'm in a garden, essentially. We're just all over the place here. And we're mixing the show up a little bit. Usually we do interviews. Sometimes we just talk about things, but we had a show at the beginning of the year where we talked about our most anticipated comics of the year. That was with Carlos. And now we're going to recap that and look ahead as we have Nicole Drum today from comicbook.com. Nicole, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. And I have to say, I'm loving your jungle atmosphere going on right now.
Different vibe today.
Some gorgeous plants you got going. It looks better than my jungle, honestly. That's in another room so no one can see the sad state of affairs. But, you know,
I was kind of worried because I was like, I'm moving locations today just to, like, mix it up a little bit. And I was like, I don't have any of my comic book stuff behind me. And I set up. I was like, oh, yeah, I have all these plants behind me. This will be fine.
It's poison ivy vibes. It's poison ivy vibes.
That's good foreshadowing. Good tease up ahead.
Indeed.
Nicole, I ask everyone this when they come on for their first time. What is your comic book origin story? How did you get into comics?
So I can't remember a time when I wasn't into comics, which I don't know that for everyone that's the case, and this goes back far enough that my memories aren't 100% firm on this, but I do have some memories of being a very small child and one of my parents' neighbors, and this is back, we're talking like the early to very early mid 80s, so I'm old. But one of the neighbors drove, I guess, the delivery truck that took periodicals and newspaper things to newsstands and stores back when that was the delivery system for things. And inevitably, he would have all these comics at the end of his thing, and being one of the only young kids in the neighborhood, I benefited from that situation immensely. So there was a span of time, I would say probably from like 1983 forward until he changed careers, that I had just about every comic that was in print. You name it, I had it. And we're talking like Marvel, DC, weird stuff. I remember like special like licensed things, like weird sticker books of odd characters. I guarantee you I have probably had in my hands comics that I probably just wrecked as a child that collectors today would be like, you did what to who? But those are some of my earliest memories. I remember being the lone kid in the neighborhood who was like a kid. People were like about 3-4 years older than me. And I'm running around going, hey guys, I got Batman. You know, that was like my currency. And then I had I had the Barbie comics. I had everything. And I was just like this little dragon hoarding gold. And pretty quickly on, I found myself gravitating towards the characters that weren't really heroes and weren't really villains. They were the characters who were flawed. And so I came up loving characters like Emma Frost when she appeared, and Namor, and big Batman fan because he's complicated, and I love complicated. But I also started really identifying that I wanted to see the female characters in those big superheroes' orbits have their time. And so I grew up loving the peaks of Lois Lane we would get, and then being like really annoyed with the way some of the characters were drawn in the 80s, and like being like, what the crap is it with some people's feet, and like just stuff like that, like it's things like that. And so like I've got notebooks from when I was in like late elementary, junior high, where I'm trying to draw characters myself because I felt like I could do it, but spoiler alert, I cannot. They were bad designs, let's just be fair. But like I think I was writing like probably what was proto fanfic, like little kid like comic book fanfic. Like I would get mad, I get angry as hell, like the way like a Batman story would come out. It's be like, that could be done better. And I would like come up with my own version of like Long Halloween or something. I'd be like, screw that, I can write a better version. And no, I could not. But that's kind of like my origin story. It just kind of kept going. And since I lived in a neighborhood where there wasn't a lot of kids, those were my friends. Those were my stories. And that's kind of what I did. And it was always something I kind of pocketed and carried with me. So even as I'm going into like high school and college, if I found someone who was interested in comics, I'm going to make them my friend because it was just currency. And in an interesting way, that's how I ended up meeting my partner. He was a big Batman fan, and at the time I was super into Vicky Vale, and it just kind of became a thing, and now we have a child. And now I work for comicbook.com, and he gets to hear all my tirades and rants about, did you see what look at what they did. Like, there's that meme where they've taken Taylor Swift next to, like, Spider-Man looking at, have you seen this shit, Taylor Swift? Except for it's me, have you seen this shit? Like, that's, I've always got a rant. It's like, here we come to Wednesday, and I'm, like, texting him at work going, did you see what they did to Spider-Man this week? Did you see?
Oh, God.
Have you seen what's happened? I don't know why I could have put it in. And that's my origin story. Like, and the thing is, like, I'm one of those people that, like, have read so much that I never kept track of who wrote what or who drew what. So now as an adult, I'm trying to go back through and pair those formative memories with the authors so that I can be angry at them.
Next time you see him at a con, you're like, do you
like,
remember
you did
the
this
story
to me.
you did?
1987, you scarred me for life. Or at the same time, shake their hands because they changed my life. And, like, I've actually gotten to have that moment with a couple of creators who, not that far back, but, like, you know, I've actually gotten to tell Jeff Johns, like, dude,
wow.
Blackest Night was, like, such a formative thing for me and my partner. That we love that so much. Like, dude, I love Larfleeze so much. And that was, like, such a formative moment in our relationship. And he's like, that's weird, but that's awesome, like, kind of thing. So, like, I've gotten to have these conversations with a few people who I'm like, dude, I've read so much of your stuff, and let me tell you, like, it has impacted me. So, yeah, that's my comic book not-so-villain origin story.
That's a great one. We've had a lot of different ones. We have people go all the way back and then how they got into the industry. I think Kofi answered that in about like 15, 20 minutes. So you're in
Oh my
record
God.
time.
Mine's is a very straight shot. I was a nerdy little kid. I was just a sad, nerdy little kid that someone handed a pile of books to, and I was like, ooh. And I basically, like, you give a mouse a cookie, you give Nicole a book, and it's all over. And that's that. It could have been crack. It was comics. It was, I mean...
There you go. It could be so much worse. Just as
It could be
expensive,
so much
but it could have been so
Oh
much
my God.
worse.
Let me tell you, like, when my parents actually had to start spending money on these themselves, they were like, this is going to be a problem, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, it is. Yeah. And the thing is, what's really funny is my dad is old. My parents were older parents. And I've also, during that time, discovered some of my dad's old comics in, like, my grandparents' attic type of thing. And I maintain this to this day. Someday, when my father dies, or we finally get froggy and start going through all the stuff we pulled out of Grandpa's house, I promise you, we're going to find, like, the Action Comics #1 in terrible condition, in a box somewhere, with my dad's name scrawled on it from when he was a child, because he's relatively old.
I mean, it doesn't matter, apparently. There was one at San Diego Comic-Con they just saw as a 0.5 that's going for, like, $750,000. It does not matter the condition of that thing.
And I'm not going to lie, if I come across one of those, I don't know that I would sell it. I really don't know that I would. That would be treasure to me. Like, I would be like, this is my baby. I have a baby. This is my baby. And you pry it out of my cold, dead hands. Because
That's how I am. I mean,
Sure.
there's nothing I own that is worth that much.
No,
I'll tell
yeah,
you that.
nothing.
But yeah, you know, we all have our keys, and for some reason, some people's keys, because it's like that book means more.
Yeah.
Like, you know, maybe a Young Avengers #1, a first appearance of a bunch of key characters may not mean as much as it does to me, because that's Kate Bishop's first appearance, and that's like my all-time favorite character. Or a War of the Realms #1 that had like the all-new Agents of Atlas in there. That was another one that a lot of people may not know those characters yet.
Yes.
Can't wait for that. But yeah, no, that's the fun of it. That's the fun of it.
Oh, yeah. And, of course, this is all a gateway for me to collect weird comics, like the old school issues of Lois Lane, where the cover where she becomes black for an issue, and, like, presses Superman on, if I were black, would you still love me? I love stuff like that. I love the social issues. Like, they crack me up because they're so heavy-handed, but also so poorly done, and I love them so much.
Product of the times.
They really are, but you learn so much about them from. I mean, that's what I love about comics. They always try.
They do.
And they're always doing something for the time that nobody else is doing. And they're putting something in the conversation. And those are my prized possessions when I find those weird ones that at the time were definitely doing something, and now we're going, why did they do that? Why did they do that?
I think my comic shop, shout out BoomTube Comics in Southington, has the first appearance of Lois Lane in there. If anyone wants that, go crazy.
How much though for that?
Not
even gonna lie. I was gonna say I might be willing to sell an organ because I
Good
love
chunk
her
of
so
change.
much.
Good chunk of change. I'll go in and ask them.
Find out just in case I were to ever win the lottery and to become that crazy person, you know, because it could happen. Anything's possible.
Anything's
I might
possible.
develop
You never know.
mutant powers tomorrow. Who knows?
That $1 billion Powerball is looking good every single day. Maybe by the time this episode comes out.
I think someone in California might have won it.
Of course, it was California.
Always California. Before I even get there on vacation next week, man. Let it go.
Well, to get my mind off of that, we are here to talk about our favorite comics of the year so far. I mentioned it earlier on. Agent Carlos from the Agents of Fandom, which is our network, helped me out on this. At the beginning of the year, we were looking ahead, and I think one of the ones I'm going to start off with is the one I was looking most forward to, and that was actually Scarlet Witch #1 by Steve Orlando and Sarah Pichelli, because I was really looking forward to this. And for me, it lived up to any expectation that I was looking forward to. It put Wanda in a new scenario that a lot of people had her on a pedestal since the MCU, and she's much different in the comics than she is in the shows, and we all very much know that. But this version is welcoming for kind of everyone who loved the show to bring it in, the big warm hug, and be like, this is where she is now. She's redeeming her past. They had so many comics leading up to this to have to like go back and be like, we have to fix this, we have to fix this, we have to kill her off. Okay, now she made up with the mutants again. So
Again.
a lot of things had to be done to put into this, but I really genuinely like what Steve Orlando's done. It's kind of become a little bit of a Marvel trope now in 2023 where every one of these characters kind of has a shop now. Like Moon Knight, he has a shop. Doctor Strange, he has a shop. Wanda, she has a shop, but they're there to help people. And the inclusion of Darcy in this, it was actually felt really natural for an MCU character to kind of come in and have that same vibe. I think Steve Orlando did a great job. The art by Sarah Pichelli in this was so freaking good. She drew her so well. They brought out the Romanian roots in Wanda's visuals and some of the stuff that she'd even bring up in conversation. It's a good run, and the first 4 issues are just kind of like an issue of the week and a problem of the week, where I think Vision came up to ask for help because Wanda has this magical door where someone every issue would walk in and be like, I need help, and only Wanda can fix. So it's been really good. I hope people buy it. We have Steve Orlando coming on the Comic Corner soon, so I'm excited to talk to him about that. But it's been great, and I've really enjoyed it.
I'm just
Nicole,
always happy anytime.
Yeah.
I'm just happy anytime Wanda gets her due. She's such a good character that doesn't always get the treatment, and you're right that she's getting the treatment that she deserves, and I'm really happy to see it.
Yeah, no, it's about time, and I was crying for it, and I think a lot of people were, and it just kind of like, ever since the success of the show, and I always I tell people, like, comic fans and MCU fans, they are two different people, but there is a little bit of an overlap, and if you can even just bring a few of them over, that's always an absolute win. And ever since that show had such a huge success, I'm sitting there and I'm like, when's Wanda getting a comic?
Yeah.
When's Wanda getting a comic? And it took a couple of years. It took a couple of years, but we finally got it this year, and it's been so good. Russell Dodderman's been on the covers, and whenever he's doing anything on the covers, it's been phenomenal. It's been so good.
Absolutely.
Nicole, what is your first pick?
My first pick is probably my favorite thing this year, and the series itself has actually concluded, and it's now in trade form. But it is Will Morris's Gospel, and I believe it is Image, if I'm correct. But I love stories that are good stories, and they don't have to be superheroes. And I'm going to do such a bad job of describing Gospel. Gospel is this beautiful story that is basically, it takes all these different themes and genres and it collides, and it's a hero's journey. It goes into medieval history, specifically English, I believe it's Reformation. And it tells the story of these two young folk who are at this intersection of faith and adventure, and this idea of who gets to tell history. And so it's an exploration of these big questions about who you really are, what is your story and your faith and yourself. And they're going on, basically it's a hero's journey to like deal with the idea of God and the devil in Reformation England. And it's basically a storyteller and somebody who's been raised in the church type of thing at the time when printing and the word is getting out to people, and they literally have to fight the devil. But there's also a present day component where it's this finding out the true story of history, and it's like, where's the story really lie? Like, what really happened and who tells the story? And in the actual historical part of the story, these two young people are determining what their stories are going to be and what their destiny is, and how they factor into this larger story of man basically struggling for control of the faith of the people. And it asks people as a reader to not only confront their concepts of what history really means and what faith really means, but what their own stories are. And it's just this beautiful adventure that asks a lot of big questions, not only in terms of the narrative, but also for the people who are reading it. And it's kind of like falling into a real fairy tale in the most beautiful way possible. And it's beautifully drawn, it's beautifully told, and it's complex and intellectual, but you never feel like you're being preached to or talked down to. It's just it's got good vibes, and you almost feel like someone's going to be like along with a guitar or a little banjo or something coming behind you to sing the story as you're going through this complicated adventure that's got not so much wizards, but you get this sense of magic, but also this very real sense of these big conflicts that we're also dealing with today. Like, what version of our history is going to be told, and what does that mean for us personally, and where our place in it? And then there's a little bit of like, there's female characters and non-white characters, and where do they fit into this history and this story, and what is their fate and destiny? And for each of these characters, like, they've been told what life is supposed to be, and they're kind of rejecting that notion. And it is just such a beautiful, beautiful story. And I want to say the book is like 4 or 5 issues long, but again, it's now in trade. But it is quite possibly this really rich, beautiful, soothing, elegant story experience that made it easily probably not only my favorite read this year so far, but probably the best thing I've read this far, and possibly one of the best and favorites of the past 5 years. And that says a lot, because I'm picky.
Wow.
And I will sing this book's praises, like, probably for years to come. Like, it is probably, it's up there for me. And I would encourage anybody who hasn't read it to give it a try. It's really neat.
It sounds like it has
there's some real characters.
Yeah, it has like some elements. If you ever read Kieran Gillen's like Once and Future,
Yes.
where it's like it takes place in modern times, but it encapsulates like old English stories like King Arthur and stuff like that, but it kind of like puts it in today's context and telling your own story from there on out and your role in that. No, that's fascinating because a big part of
What's really cool about this is, like, you don't really realize there's a contemporary component to your few issues in. Like, you think you're just stuck in this adventure comic, and then all of a sudden you're like reading along and you're like, wait a minute, why am I suddenly in the present day? Why is there a parking lot here? And then you realize there's layers, and it keeps you engaged in such a cool way. And I cannot commend this creator enough. Like, I wish there was more. I mean, it's a complete story, and he gives you everything on the page, and I think it's beautiful. But at the same time, it's one of those things that's so good you wish you had more. It's like, can I have a second helping? Like, no, my second helping is going to go back and read this again and see what else I pull from it. And it feels like one of those stories that, sometimes when you read a story, the story is what you get. Even if you come back to it in 5 years, you're going to get the same thing, and it's going to become a comfort read. This feels like something I'll come back to in 6 months, and I'm going to get something completely new from it. And then I'll pass it off to my kid when they're big enough to read, like, something of this level, and they're going to get something completely different than I got. And I'll come to it like 2 years from now, and I'm going to pull something completely new from it. It feels like something that's timeless, and that's always going to be giving. And I love that quality of it, because I feel like a lot of times stories are a product of their moment in comics. Like we were talking about with, like, some of those Lois Lane comics. Like, they're definitely of their moment. I feel like this is one of those things that is timeless. It's classic. You're going to always pull from it, and I think it deserves to be read by everyone. It's so good.
One of the reasons I love doing these is because sometimes a story like this gets brought up that I've never heard of. And then instantly I'm just kind of like, all right, I'm going to write that down, put that on my Amazon list. There it goes in there, $25. All right.
Oh, yeah. I have literally become the biggest evangelist for gospel, which is hilarious on some level, because I can't believe I'm an evangelist for a book called Gospel. It's not my vibe, but, like, I literally, anytime I was like, hey, you've never... dude, have you read Gospel? Like, I'm literally like, have you heard the good word? It's not even about that. It's just like, I just want everyone to read this beautifully written story. I thought it was this way about like the May That's a Layla Star too, because it was also just such a fantastic book. And this, to me, it's the same level of quality, same level of you're going to pull some very important fundamental human truths out of this book. That's the way I feel about it, but it's not in a way that's going to make you feel like you're being educated. You're just going to feel very whole. And I love that about it. So yeah, please write this down your list and go check it out. And come back and let me know how you feel about it.
Done. That's kind of how I felt last year about Do a Power Bomb from Dan Warren Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
That book just blew me away. And like you said, a complete story, totally different. It's a wrestling book, but it's it's just so beautifully done. And if you want to hear me talk about that, that was our last podcast where we talked about last year's books. So I will ramble on there.
I was going to say, I think Matt talks about that one quite a bit. I believe he had nothing but good to say about that one.
I've had Matt on, and I think we talked about that book for like a half hour straight. Like, just that book. My second book I have, I am very much usually a Marvel person. But this year, I will seriously tip my cap to DC because they've been pumping out some amazing content, some amazing comics this year. And one of them took me by surprise. And we brought it up when I had Kelly Thompson on, and we gagaed over this book for like 10 straight minutes when we were supposed to be talking about her stuff. Spirit World is so freaking good. Alyssa Wong's story that they tell in this is so good. And it comes down to, it's not preachy. It's a main DC book. The characters in there are so good. And it just feels different. It feels fresh. And I just want more of this character that is Xanthi, who has the coolest freaking power set of new characters I've seen in a long time. What they do is they take just paper origami, and whatever paper origami they have, they make it real. So there's paper origami of a sword, giant real sword. Paper origami of an umbrella, normal umbrella. It's such a cool concept, and this book took me by surprise. It was a part of DC's new We Are Legends initiative, where they put out 3 new books: City Boy, The Vigil, and Spirit World. And Spirit World for me is by far and away my favorite. The Vigil is also very good. But this book, Heining's art, the art in this is phenomenal. The color pops. I cannot recommend this book enough. Like, we're only 3 issues in. Literally, only 3 issues in. I'm like, if you're going to read a DC book this year and you want it to be different, read this.
Yeah, I think I've only like glanced at it and like not gotten too deep, but I liked what I saw. I'm going to have to put that a little bit higher on the things I don't read regularly that probably need to list, which is ever growing. But yeah, just the cursory glance, I was like, this looks cool. And hearing you like talk about it, I'm like, oh, this sounds way cooler than I thought it was going to look like. So now I need to bump it up. That sounds really awesome.
Yeah, what they do, so like what Xanthi is, they're dead but alive, so they bounce between the 2 worlds.
Right.
And the perfect character, Alyssa Wong brought in 2 characters to bring into the story that was just friggin' perfect. Cassandra Cain and Constantine. Like, to put those 2 characters just in a story where it's weird, mystical shit happening. You put Cassandra Cain in that world, and Cassandra Cain's gonna be fine there because it's freaking Cassandra Cain. So you see Cassandra being freaking badass, and then you see Constantine just being like, yeah, whatever, I'm here for the ride too. Seeing like ghosts of past lovers, and you know, just being like, oh yeah, no, I'm the worst, I'm sorry. And it's just it works. It just, everything about this works so well. And to do a story like that where it is a non-binary character written by a non-binary writer, it's not preachy. And that's it just, everything about that is not said, it's just implied. Things that come up in the story, just implied. The aspect of dead names with non-binary people who have them just gets brought up. The name is scribbled out. The end. It's just part of the story. It's not an added on thing. It's just part of the character. It's just so well done. Like,
That sounds
you
so
talked
awesome.
about earlier about being a product of the times. That's very much a product of, the world we live in today, where those stories need to be told and haven't been told for so
Absolutely.
long, and now are finally getting told and being told in such a great way. That's why Spirit World, again, go read it.
Absolutely. That's definitely getting bumped on the list. 'Cause, yeah, I've seen that character pop up in a couple, like, the event things. I'm like, that character's so cool. I want to come back to this character so much. And now you've just bumped it to the top of the list.
What you got for number
crap
2?
Out of that. Oh, gosh. I'm torn between two things. I'm just gonna go with my heart on this one. Green Arrow. The Green Arrow, and this is a vanity choice. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a huge Green Arrow fan. I love Green Arrow as a character so freaking much, and like, I don't know if you see me on Twitter, but like Jenna's boyfriend Chris and I are like, when's our boy gonna get his time? When does he get his time? And then they announced that this Green Arrow book was happening, and we're like, it's happening. But I've really just enjoyed. I think we're like, what, 2-3 issues into. I mean, we're not even very far into this. And I don't know if this is on the best of because it was like at my peak levels of hype, or because it's genuinely good, because it is also genuinely good. But I have to go with the new Green Arrow series because, dang it, it's his time. And that's really all I've got for the reason why. It's, if you're a Green Arrow fan, it is our time. A Green Arrow hive rise. Like, but it's good. It's good to see this character back. It's good to see this character be treated as the complex character that they are. It's good that there's a little balance of humor, there's action, this is a character that a lot of times people are like, oh, we just treat him like he's a discount Batman, but Green Arrow is so much more than that, and a lot of times he shows up and he's weird or he's goofy or he's not given it the correct level of due, but he's very, very, I mean, if you go back to like Golden and Silver Age with Green Arrow, this is a rich character. And then as we got more closer to the contemporary times, he just kind of fell off. This run feels like an encapsulation of everything that was good and rich and detailed about those previous versions of the character brought to the modern day. And it's just a dang good, fun book. And that's why it's on my list. For no other reason other than just I'm just so happy it's there. But it's also being done well. And I just saw, like, I guess the cover for the next one. It just looks completely rad. And I was just like, oh, please inject that straight into my veins. Like, anytime I get Arrow anything, like Arrow Fam, Green Arrow, like, give them to me. I'm happy for it. And I'm just excited. I really want to see this continue. I want to see this character make it back up the chain to be the level of hero in the DC pantheon that I know he deserves to be. And I know that's really superficial, but I'm just a Green Arrow girl at heart, and I have to shout it out for that reason. But it's just really good. I mean,
Shameless plug. Yeah,
it.
we had Sean Isaacs on to talk about that book, and that was like right when they kind of announced it, so he wasn't able to say too much about it. But ever since we had it on, AF, who I had on as a co-host there, they're both in South Africa, so he was extraordinarily excited to see one of his favorite artists, someone he idolized, take on a character he also loved. And I read that first issue. It's a great first issue. It made me want to go back. It genuinely, like, I had to step back and be like, I need to go back and read some more Green Arrow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I kind of did that with that, and thank God for the DC Infinite app, because it's very easy to do so.
It really is.
It's so easy to read comics now today, guys. But it's definitely, I do agree. Excellent character. We need to see more of him. It just hasn't been explored a lot. I mean, he had a little bit of a rise in the Green Arrow show, in the Arrow show.
Yeah.
But
even that
it's not
wasn't
the same.
really. It's
yeah,
not even
no,
close.
it's different. It's almost
it's
like
very different.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, for me,
Like Batman.
Hawkeye's my guy, right? And then I look at the MCU and I'm like, that's Clint Barton, kinda. I mean, it's a version of him. It looks like he's stuck in Ronin mode, but yeah, that's him. It kind of felt like that with Green Arrow in this show. Yeah.
I think, the show did not do my boy in green any favor. I mean, it made people excited about the character generally, and I will forever be appreciative of that. I will be appreciative for what it spawned, because I do think the Arrowverse did a lot for superhero television on a scale that we don't appreciate the way we should. That said, I'm really glad we have a comic to bring my boy back to his roots. And this comic in particular is doing the Lord's work in terms of like addressing some of the unfortunate reboots and revisions that we have seen in comics, and is really doing the legwork to really restore this character and make it make sense. And I think it's a great time. And what I really love about this comic is it's a good place to jump in if you are someone coming from the television and also coming from the weird tangle of all of it, but also coming from, I love this character deeply. It's a good entry point for everyone to come together in the same space and really get something out of it. And a lot of times you don't get that for older characters, and I think it's just really beautifully done. And I'm loving the fact that we get an extended run, and I really would like it to see go beyond what it's said it's going to go. Like, please, I need more.
Hope so, because that's, you want to talk about a good segue, Nicole. That is the segue right there, because the book the third and final book of this year I'm going to talk about is a book that did have an extension, which was originally a 6-issue run. It then became a 12-issue run, and now it is a full-on run. And we teased it at the beginning with a little Poison Ivy vibe. G. Willow Wilson's Poison Ivy is so freaking good. It is the issue that came out. I was going to look this up, and I totally don't have it. I think it was the issue that came out in January. It was the issue where Harley and Ivy meet up for the first time.
Okay. I know what you're
That is my issue of the year.
Really?
That one issue is my issue of the year.
That is such a good issue.
It was phenomenal. And everything about this run has been so good. How it started out, where it was just kind of like letters, looking back, seeing where Pam is in her life, still keeping up with a little bit of, she is not a hero. She is, essentially trying to end the world at the beginning of the arc, and almost turns her back on it, has to face her own traumas, and then moves on with her life. Harley comes back into it, and now all caught up, we're back in Gotham. And how it's been done has just been so amazing from G. Willow Wilson's point of view, where this was a 6-issue. Then it became a 12-issue, and now it's just an ongoing. And it feels like this was all planned in the first place. Yeah. It's just so clean. And even now, where we're having like the Nightmare event, G. Willow Wilson wrote the issue for that. So
that is such a good issue.
And it just flowed. It didn't feel like, we're in the middle of an event. It picked right up from the previous issue. It just worked in the timeline of events. It's like, hey, guys, everyone here is talking to each other.
This is how you do an event one-off that fits into your continuity. And honestly, I think that might be the best issue, like the best tie-in issue of the event so far. It possibly will end up being the best one overall. Like, I was floored, and the way that I have to gush on this issue for just a second, because like it blew me away how she twists the idea of sometimes the nightmare is giving somebody else what they want. Like, making somebody else happy can be someone's personal nightmare, and I love the psychology of that. Like, there's such a richness. It tells you so much about Ivy, that's her hell, that's her nightmare, and I'm just like, just when I thought the Poison Ivy book couldn't get any better, we get this random event tie-in that just click to the next level, and it makes me so excited for like the next normal issue. I'm like, where are we going to? What facet of her brain are we going to get into next? Because
it's been so good. The art in that issue too. Everyone's designs, like, so off-putting, like perfectly to how it should have been in that event. Like a Batman with giant eyes and a grinning smile has been.
Oh my god, I love it so much.
So freaky. The Dick Grayson washing the car in the booty shorts, like stuff like that. And because like even Pam is freaked out by it. She's like, this isn't normal. Like, I don't like this, but Harley likes this, and I want Harley to be happy.
Yep.
So, like you said, that psychology of it all is just like, Great.
And then there's
issue.
the
This run,
there's the unhealthy relationship at all, because you got Janet from HR being like, "This isn't right," and then she's like, "But Harley's happy," and you just want to scream, "You're in a toxic relationship. Call your dad," or like whatever. You're just like, "Get out!" Like,
I was starting to wonder whose nightmare it was. We're like, I don't even know if this is Pam's.
Yeah, I don't know what's going
nightmare,
on.
or if it's Janet from HR's nightmare. Like,
yeah, it's whose nightmare is it? But like at the same time, maybe it's everyone's nightmare. Like maybe it's a shared nightmare because Janet from HR has become so close. Like maybe we're getting commentary on the nature of like complicated friendships and relationships, because clearly there's something going on there too. Like, are we exploring like the nature of like a polyamorous situation? That would be such a cool thing to touch, because Poison Ivy is such a non-traditional character. Like, plants are non-traditional, she's non-traditional. Like, I just love the facets this can go into, and I'm just like, gee, Willow Wilson, you crazy genius, you. Like, oh. And this is gonna have echoes into the series, and
the threads, like, it usually, sometimes these one-off events, an issue happens, you're like, well, that's over, don't need more of that, on to the usual from there on out. Yeah, go back, give me an issue or two later. But this one was like, the issue ended, I'm like, there's a second part to this, right? Like, I need more of this. So
I'm so excited for the next part too. I'm like, give it to me. There's been some
good ones in there. I've heard good things about the Joker issue.
I haven't seen that one yet.
The Joker issue is essentially, what is Joker's hell is that no one cares about him, and he's just like some office dude. He just works in an office, and no one cares about him.
Oh,
Dick Grayson's
awesome.
is like Nick Nightwing's is exactly what you think it is. Like, I got Nightwings, I was like, yeah, this is exactly what I would think his nightmare is, because like,
I love torturing the character so much.
It kind of, sometimes I'm like, oh, this is depressing, but sometimes I'm like, yeah. I mean, Nightwing's book has been, I am sorry for not putting Nightwing's book, because Nightwing's book is always on here, but I wanted it to be different.
It's so good, though. Yeah.
Nightwing's book has been, this is on the verge of being like my all-time favorite run. I'm sidetracking myself slightly, but that's been on the verge of being my all-time favorite run, so long as Tom Taylor sticks to landing, which I do trust that he will do.
I trust him.
But that book has been so just like feel good. Like, I read, I'm like, yeah, that's my guy right there. And then this issue comes along, and I'm like, yeah, he's going through hell. It's been a while since I've seen him get, kind of like.
It's nice torture once in a while. Gotta give him a little torture just for old time's sake. I mean, why not?
I don't know if that was your third pick, or if I just totally stole that from you.
Poison Ivy was my pick, but I had a backup, because I had a hunch that was going to show up, because it's been such a good book. Like, I would have had questions if somebody didn't pick it. Because, like, if you didn't pick it, I'd be like, have you read it yet? Do I need to, like, pack up my copies and mail them to you? Because they're really good.
I'll take more. I'll take all the issues I can get.
You can't have them. Then I. But, like, if you're deprived, I might help. So I'm going to pick something that I hope was this year, because sometimes the year is a blur. And even if it's not, it's going to get dragged into this year, because I loved it so much. And it was, it's not even like, this is going to be sad. It's not even a full book, but it was the Power Girl special. Oh, yes. My God.
Yes.
It was so good. So good.
Yes. Absolutely, yes.
Literally, it's like, Power Girl special, excellent, yes, thank you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. No, truly. I had the absolute pleasure of getting to speak with the creative team for this, and I've never been so excited about a one-shot in my life as I was about this book. Power Girl is one of those characters that I feel like DC has done wrong for so long. And everything, we've seen her in the one-shot, we've seen her in some backup stories and things.
Yeah, this whole thing's been led up to in the Action Comics, the backup issues.
Yeah, and they're all brilliant and beautiful. But Leah Williams just does something with this character that it's so good. We're finally getting to address so much trauma and so much history with this character, and we're finally getting to see this character as their own person. And it's beautiful, and it's resonant, and it's funny, and it's heartbreaking and it's inspiring and the art is incredible. And this is one of those where if I were in charge at DC, I would just back a truck of money up to Leah Williams and be like, have fun, whatever it takes. You do you. This creative team, just here, all the money in the world, please continue, because it's just that good. And I love everything about it. I love how this character is still very much the character that we were introduced to, and the people have been carrying along for decades and hoping for something good for. And we're finally addressing all these layers and getting something fresh and new and original that doesn't feel like it's just shoved in a corner of the superfan world. And it makes me cry every time I go back to it. And I love that. And I love that at the same time the character feels new. And it's and this one shot and these other backup stories feel like it's we just need more. DC, if you're listening, Truck of Money, Leah Williams. Truck of Money, Leah Williams, make it happen. Because there is an audience here for this. It's just brilliant. It's such a brilliantly crafted one shot. All of it is, but that particular issue it's so very, very good.
It was
and
excellent.
I would love to see that more.
Yes. No, I think I picked up that issue because my shop opens on Wednesdays, so sorry, DC, with your Tuesday new comic book days, that just screws everyone over.
My shop makes everybody wait till Wednesday too, and I'm like, well, at least I've got previews.
Which thankfully tells me when I'm looking at Twitter and everyone's like, go pick up this issue. Go pick up this issue. And that was the Power Girl special number 1. So I was like, okay, when I go on Wednesday, I had no intention of picking this. I've been reading the backups, but I was like, I don't feel like I know enough of this character yet, but everyone's like, just do it. Just do it. So okay, I picked it up. That was my issue of the week. I mean, easily. That was easily my issue of the week. And as a transition, again, this is perfect because one of my most anticipated comics coming out later this year, I literally have on here, I have 3 things. One of them just says DC September slate. Because in it, we have the Power Girl number 1 that's starting up. We have Birds of Prey, Fire and Ice, and Wonder Woman all coming out, all number 1s,
Birds
all
of Prey is
coming
on my
out in
list.
September.
Yep.
All
Birds
coming
of
out
Prey
in
is actually
September.
my most anticipated. Yep.
DC September slate. I was looking at it, I'm like,
broke.
this is incredible. This September slate is every single thing that so many people have been saying what DC needed to be doing for so long, which was like, you have so many great characters. And you have so many great characters. And you like Batman. I love the Bat family, but I'm like, I do not need 23 Bat books a month.
God. As somebody who loves Batman and probably knows more about Batman and the Bat family than is healthy at this point, I would be so happy if DC decided tomorrow, we're going to send Batman on vacation for a year, and there's not going to be a single Batman or Bat-Fan book. I would be the first person, standing on a hill cheering and screaming and be like, what you going to give me instead? Because, give me all the ladies. Give me, 100 Wonder Woman books now, because I'm great. Just send them on vacation. Because, again, it's, I think I say this every week when I read another Batman story. Yeah, this is great, but we've done this 100,000 times. We're beating a dead horse at this point. We need to come up with something new and different. Give them a nap. Just give Batman a cookie and a nap. He deserves it. Maybe some therapy. I don't know. And give us something else. I mean, it couldn't hurt at this point. Give him back his money and give him some therapy. And let somebody else do something for a while. Let's explore something else. Because there are tons of cool characters. There's a ton of characters we have. Pull something random out of that Stargirl book that we've been getting. Give me something out. Drag something out of the JSA books. Which are great, by the way.
I mean, I've been giving DC credit on this because I've genuinely been loving their Dawn of DC initiative. I think a lot of the characters and the stories I've been telling so far have been so good and so welcoming to DC's very much, it can be a publishing company that is difficult to get into if you're a newer reader because there's so much and they don't do the number 1s every week that Marvel does. So you kind of you get it. You're like, do I start here? Do I start at Rebirth or do I start before that? And
just jump in.
Again, you just jump in. But Dawn of DC is intentionally supposed to be this is a good clean start. This is easy to get into, and they've been pushing so many great characters that they have been keeping in the dark for so long. Like, when was the last time you had a Birds of Prey book? When was the last time Fire and Ice had a comic?
I was gonna say, it's been like 200 years. It's like the Titanic. It's been 87 years. It's been that long. Like, there are people who there are probably genuinely people who have no idea who Fire and Ice are, and they are completely missing out. Or their only frame of reference is the Human Target book, which was fantastic, by the way, but it's not the same. Like, give them the characters. Like, jump in and do these characters, because again, DC's probably got one of the deepest, richest, most interesting slates of characters. And just letting people take these characters, bring them back, and go freaking ham is going to be such a delight. And yeah, you're right, the September slate is stacked. I'm going to be poor. It's fine. It's fine. Like, it's fine. Because you know I'm going to need, like, all of them and all the variants, because the cover art is gorgeous. And that's something else DC's been slaying with, is their covers. Their covers.
But not too many. Just
the right
enough.
amount.
Just
enough to hook you. And no shade, Marvel, but I don't need 100 covers for everything. Please stop. Like, I would like to flip through my digital and not see, like, when am I gonna get to the book? I'm tired already. I gotta go, like, feed my cat. I'd rather be reading.
Why does Spider-Man need 8 variant covers twice a month?
I don't know. He's not even that interesting anymore. And I'm sorry, because I love Spidey, but no. Please, God, no. Like,
other good books coming out that I am anticipated for. Kelly Thompson's Nicole. Kelly Thompson is one of my... I've told her she is my favorite writer in the business. She's right so now. Good. I've loved every single thing she's done. Nicole is coming out. I've read this. It's phenomenal. The art in this book is so... Mattia Dia Lewis, his art is photorealistic. It's just... everyone in this book looks real. And there's aspects to it that don't even need words, because how good Mattia's art is, where he's able to tell the story from as an artist to just portray this is what's going on. Sorry, letterer, you're off for a few pages on this one. We'll hit you later, but it's just so incredibly done. When you see this, final order cutoff is coming up soon. It'll actually be over by the time this episode comes out. But when you see it in shops, go pick it up, because it is phenomenal. And the last one I'm excited for, just because it's a little different, is Jonathan Hickman's Gods. And I'm intrigued about this because I am being a little nihilistic towards Marvel. I love Marvel, but I am being a little nihilistic towards Marvel, and a lot of it is because of the MCUification of the comics, and we've been seeing it a lot. But Gods looks like something that's so different and so unique, and it's almost his attempt at creating his Eternals, if you may. His new gods. It's his new characters are just completely original, and I just want to see the runway he's given, because Jonathan Hickman's stories very, very consistently intrigue me. And he writes very good characters, very good conflict, very good struggles. So I am intrigued in his God's story, because it's a Marvel original. We haven't gotten that in a while.
That's so exciting. Oh gosh. I know in terms of what I'm looking forward to, this is going to sound dumb because I know it just came out and I lost track of... I have a kid and it's summer break. I'm allowed to be confused as to when things are coming out, okay? July is a big month for me. It's Barbenheimer month, okay?
It is.
I forgot when Hawk Girl was coming out.
Yes, that was this week.
And apparently came out this week. So I have something, but that was literally the thing that was I have been so waiting for this. Another character that I love, like, some people are able to keep track of, like, royal families. Some people are able to keep track of, like, soap opera histories. I am able to keep track of the Hawks. I, at one point in time, had a full-on PowerPoint to explain the convoluted history of the Hawks. Oh, I'm not kidding. This is how deeply nerdy I am. I used to belong to an online role-playing group where it's, like, written role-playing rather than physically acting it out, though I did at one point have cosplay wings because Hawk Girl's my jam, where we played as characters in DC and Marvel type universes, and I was deep into the Hawks, and so I had a full comprehensive like flowchart PowerPoint of the entire history of Hawkman and Hawkgirl, because you have to keep track because they're complicated. But I was so excited for this book to come out, and now it's here, and apparently it's getting fantastic reviews, and I'm just so excited for that book because it's about damn time. I've been salty about Hawkgirl since Brightest Day, and give me back Kendra. Give any version back to me in some variation or format. So that's been my most anticipated. I've been looking forward to Birds of Prey in a very, very big way. I'm also really interested, and this is a tentative interest. I'm interested and excited for. It's not so much a comic because it's a continuation. It's the next creative team, and it's gonna be. This is all basically DC, just because I'm just really pumped with what they're doing right now. The next creative team for Wonder Woman. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen there. Like there's some really interesting possibilities there, and
Did
I'm
you
very
read
curious.
Wonder Woman 800, that the backup that Tom King did to kind of set up his run? I'm intrigued. Yep, I'm intrigued.
I am intrigued. I am intrigued to how we're going to bridge the gap between Conrad and Cloonan's Wonder Woman and how we get to this new character, because the Wonder Woman at the end of that story did not feel like a character who was going to give us this character. And I'm like, I want to see how we get from here to there. Like, how does this take place? Because I'm fascinated. Like, she's such a different character. And I'm excited to finally have this character. Like, because we've had, the other two spawn of the Trinity. Like, it's time for the ladies to get involved, which apparently is a theme for me right now. Give it to the ladies. I watched Barbie recently. I'm all about the girls right now. This is just where I'm at. But also, and this is another one of those things that are continuing, I believe, and I could be off on this, but I don't believe it's done. It's an Image comic another book that I will sing its praises forever. It's been ongoing for a long time. I believe we're currently in a pause, not an ending, because the book did not read like it was over, and if I'm wrong, I'm going to cry. Philadelphia,
yes.
It is such a hard read on so many levels because of the things it forces people, and again, very white, the things it forces you to confront about society and our history. But it is so good. And there's vampires. And there's mythology, and there's deep, dark, evil secrets, and then there's great hope for humanity, and there's the ugly truth about, like, our society and what it means, and, like, the hopes of people, and just the way we crush one another, and, like, it's so beautiful. It's so well done. And I believe there is more coming. It's one of those things where I'm glad there's a break between, like, a significant break between arcs sometimes, because you have to sit with it. Kind of the same way with Monstrous. You'll get, like, the book will be off for a while, and I have to sit for a while to understand, like, soak it all in. I appreciate this about Philadelphia, because there's also a spin-off series, Mita Hawes' Nightmare Blog, which has recently crossed over with it, which is how, I believe it's Rodney Barnes, how he does this with the two worlds blows my mind. But that's also on my most anticipated. I believe it is coming back this year. I could be off. Whenever it's coming back, that's going to be permanently on my most anticipated, because the next chapter of that is going to be batshit.
That's how I am with Something Is Killing the Children.
Oh yeah,
that it's just like, finally came back, but it's another one that they take long. James Tynion takes long breaks between, and you have House of Slaughter to kind of fill up the gaps between there to make sure there's always a little bit of content coming out. But that's another book that finally came back this week, and it's so good.
I think for me it's like one of those things, like my reading like preferences run between like superheroes into really heavy thinky stuff, and when I get a break with the thinky stuff, it's all jam-packed with DC, which is increasingly giving me a lot to chew on as well. Especially with things like Power Girl, like that she's given us a lot to chew on. Poison Ivy is starting to give me a lot to chew on. It's now turning into, am I reading comics and also a thesis, because it's beautifully done, and I don't feel like I'm being preached to at any time, and I love it, and it's like my brain is being fed so well. right now with the comics that are out there. And I'm sorry, I can't give love to Marvel because Marvel does have some beautiful characters, but it's just not where it is for me this year. I'm so sorry, Marvel. I still do love you.
You give me. I mean, I'll let me give a Marvel a shout out because this was my honorable mention, and I was kind of holding on to this because I knew it's gonna be so DC heavy. It is Kelly Thompson. It's Jeff.
Okay.
Is the
best,
most
Jeff
adorable, feel good, and this was my.
Jeff
I
is
said
the
that I
greatest.
kind of weaseled this in there because the physical comic for It's Jeff came out this year.
There you
Even
go.
though it was from the digital issues from like the last 2 years.
We'll take
But
it.
it was
We'll
on
take it.
physical this
We'll
year.
take
And we're
it.
getting more this year. There's a season 3 coming to Marvel Unlimited. We're getting a second issue coming out later this year in October. So if you want feel good, I called it the Ted Lasso of comics. It's just, you look at it and you're like, this is adorable. This puts a smile on my face. You can't not have, like, it's just perfect. And I love
Jeff is
it.
a precious cinnamon roll, and unfortunately, I live with a Jeff hater.
How do you hate Jeff?
I don't know. He can't hear me because his headphones are on right now, so he has noise cancellation. But he's a Jeff hater. He's like, I don't understand him. I'm like, why am I with you, man?
It's
like, do
it's
you
a
not
little
love
baby
Joy?
land shark that
Thank
acts like a
you.
cat.
I know, he's so cute, and I wish he
That's
were
it.
real because I would adopt him and bring him in my house and feed him snacks.
I have
lo-
like
Oh, he
Etsy
makes me
Jeff the
happy.
Land Shark merchandise because Marvel
I'm
won't
sorry,
make
what?
any. Yeah, I have
Wait,
a little
that's what you-
plushie.
that
I have
exists?
a plushie. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna need a link because
I have a
want
little
one.
Jeff the Land Shark like a crochet plushie because they're not making real ones, so I had to get it off of Etsy.
I love it so much.
It's
Oh, I
amazing.
love Jeff. I love Jeff.
Great.
He makes me like in Marvel Snap when they had the Jeff card. Like he's pinned in my shop so I can get him for no other reason than the vibes. Like I won't play him. I just want him for the vibes because he's so. If you're having a bad day, read Jeff.
There was a little Jeff issue that came out on the Venomverse this week that is
Oh, I
adorable.
saw
It has Kate
that. I
Bishop in it, so
saw
it
it.
instantly was a 10 out of 10 issue for me. You put Jeff and Kate together, I mean, I'm just going to have a great time with it. But
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter and I'm like, oh, why is that so precious and I need it? And of course my child is like super into Venom right now and I'm like, oh, we can share this moment.
it's a Venomized Jeff.
It's a Venom and Jeff. It's like it's the perfect gateway drug. I'm so excited. Like
Perfect.
Okay,
I
oh.
ran around when that issue came out. My comic shop owner knows this because he was laughing at me. I was running around that store handing that issue to every single person. That thing sold out in a day or two.
oh, I believe it.
And I had to like read this. I told him, I was like, Dan, if you see any kid come in that's just like looking for all age, throw this in their face. They will love it because I love it because it's adorable. It's amazing. So there you
There
go.
needs to be more
Marvel,
Jeff.
give me
there
more
you
Jeff.
Go. Marvel, you give more Jeff to the people. Give the people what they want, Jeff.
I am intrigued
That's all
about
we
the return of the Ultimate. Intrigued about the return of the Ultimate Universe.
Yeah.
Intrigued.
The thing I just really want from Marvel right now, and this is gonna sound stupid, I just want more Black Knight. They had that Black Knight series a couple
did.
years ago that was
Yes, they
so
did.
good. I love that character, and it was just really, really well written. And I was just like, "Oh wow, this is good. Can we get more of this?" And then no, I didn't get more of this. But I love those characters. I love that book, and I'm just like, yeah, can I get some more of these small characters? Like I used to love the X-Men a lot. I'm not feeling the X-Men right now. I'm kind of done with Spider-Man. It feels like there's 1,000 Spider-Man stories right now. It feels like everything
There's
is
two
very
big ones,
congested.
yeah.
Yeah, it feels like this thing is very congested in a couple of pockets, and I just want some of those smaller characters back. I wish Marvel would do a little bit of what DC is doing with their smaller characters, and maybe a little less of the MCUization, and just they could come up with a little niche line of stuff and make some nerds happy.
The one that really put me over the edge, and I was more disappointed about it than anything, was last year Jim Zub had a Thunderbolts run. And it had an extraordinarily unique team, but Clint Barton was leading it. But it had America Chavez on there. It had the daughter of the Purple Man. It had Monica Rambeau, and then 2 original characters. And it was like, this is a random group of people. let's see how this turns out. And it was a fun time. And then all of a sudden now Marvel announces a new Thunderbolts team that's just Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, but what happened to Jim Zub's Thunderbolts?
Yeah.
Like, what happened? I don't know.
I mean, probably from a business perspective, it probably makes sense somewhere. But at the same time, there are different facets of fans.
They are. It's true.
I mean, people who read are not always the people who watch movies, and people who watch movies are not always the people who read. There's a Venn diagram, but I don't know. But
That's true.
It is true, but I'll keep shoving comics in people's faces forever as necessary. It's what I do.
And Nicole, where can people go on whatever social media service we're using these days to find you shove comic books in people's faces?
Buckle up, Buttercup. So while Twitter continues to exist, I am at Life in Polaroid. Fair warning right now, my entire feed is Barbie and Oppenheimer, and probably will be for the next several days, and also Taylor Swift, because that is my July. Outside of that, everywhere else, I am either at the Nicole Drum or Hey There, It's Nikki. So that's TikTok and Instagram. You can find me both places. The Hey There, It's Nikki is going to be more random day-to-day foolishness, which sometimes includes me randomly acting like Batman in public. And I'm not joking. I have a hooded blankie that sometimes gets busted out. And the Nicole Drum is going to be more slightly professional content, where you're going to see things I do on like comicbook.com. So
there you go.
Where I get weird.
You can find me on Twitter at Damon Tweet. You can find me on whatever social media website you use these days. You'll find me there. TikTok, Damon Talks Comics. Threads, it's Damon Graham because Instagram. What else? Blue Sky. You'll find me on there too. Spoutable. That's a thing, I think. Whatever you'll find me. Just find me.
I need to update my little like the Nicole Drum landing page where just click this link and you'll find something.
Social media in 2023.
Oh my god. There just needs to be like this one site that's like an aggregate of everything where like every post you make just goes.
We'll call it cable.
We'll call it cable. Until they decide to break that apart too, but it's like just subscribe here and you can get everything. I think they call that RSS feeds. I think that's what they call those.
Feeds, that's better.
Remember those?
Yes.
I think we all just need one of those now. Just go there and you look at everything in a feed, and we just all subscribe to that, and we just all go to there because it's getting hard to keep track of. Okay, what do I post here? Because you don't want to duplicate content. Because I'm also on Threads. That's Hey There, It's Nikki, but I forget how to use it. Like, do I want to replicate my content ever? Who wants to see me dressed as Batman? Who wants to hear me pontificate about the patriarchy? Who wants to hear me yell about Batman? Like, choose your own adventure today. Who wants to see cat pictures? Like, apparently someone has joined the chat, you know.
Nicole, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for letting me be slightly unhinged.
That's always the goal of this. We bring people on, we have them talk comic books. Sometimes we go off the rails, which is all the time.
Hey, you didn't force me to pick between my favorites and explain to you why this blank comic is my favorite comic of all time, which would have been sketchy. So
everything's my favorite. Go support your local comic shops. Go read more comics. Have a good day.